Monster RX93.1 presents Heard on Thursdays. Hot conversations on hot topics. Your host, Nikki Porter.
Hey monsters, happy holidays and happy Feast of the Immaculate Conception to our Catholic audience. So I hope you are all enjoying today's holiday. You're with Nikki Porter for more hot conversation on Heard on Thursdays, the show that made Philippine FM radio talk still the hottest show on air on Thursday late nights, even in 2022. So tis the season. Tis the season to be merry. Goes the cliche anyway. And don't we all want to? But happiness seems to be a challenging reach for some people, if not beyond their grasp. At least that's how some of us feel during really challenging times, like, say, when a health crisis is raging and your life goes to pot. How to make this holiday season and the times beyond truly happy? Well, tonight's guest has made it her business to coach happiness. She's a life coach, a positive psychologist, a facilitator, speaker, and business owner who is committed to guiding people and organizations into their highest, happiest potential. She's also armed with a background in coaching, facilitating, emotional intelligence, so important, and a foundation in positive psychology and psychological first aid. She aims to help clients take control of their lives and businesses to create and live out their best lives ever. Heard on Thursdays, Happiness Coach Kathi Rañeses. Hey!
Hi, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, good evening and welcome to the show. Very excited to have you on here. So, how I usually like to start, Merry Christmas, by the way,
Merry
and
Christmas.
perhaps Happy New Year. Is that too soon? It's so close. It's so close. It's
So
kind of
near yet so far.
yes, exactly. So thank you for making time to guest on Heard on Thursdays. What I usually like to ask my guests is, what did you do during the pandemic that wasn't work related, or I guess in
Mm,
this sense, both? Like, what was work related and
mm.
what was work related and not work related to help you cope with the pandemic? Because I'm sure people
Yeah.
were struggling with happiness being locked down for months on end.
Mm. I guess it depends on the setup, like what setup you have at home. So I basically kind of live by myself. I actually enjoyed the peace and quiet that the pandemic, kind of brought. I'm a little bit of an introvert, so this was the time for me to kind of catch up on all my reading, spend time with my dogs, became even more of a plantita. Um, and but there was also that struggle of kind of what am I supposed to do with my life now if like this is going to be the new normal for like the next 5 years or so. So there was a little panic, but I mostly enjoyed just being able to stay home and go to work in my jammies.
Right? That was like one of the best parts. It's like, oh, you could sleep in until maybe 1 minute before you had to like clock in to work online.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
no one has to worry about anything else. I can still lie in bed. You can still be in bed even when you clock in, right?
Right, and just not having to worry about traffic and being stuck in
Yes.
it for 30 minutes to an hour.
Mhm.
It takes so much off of like that mental stress of the day-to-day drudgery that you have to do when you go to work. So really enjoyed not having to deal with that too.
And it's so funny you brought that up now, especially holiday season, holiday traffic. The time that
Hmm.
you have to leave, it's like now much earlier than usual for you to make it to work or wherever it is that you need to go, especially during the holidays. Everyone just wants to be out now.
For sure, it's like it's an extra 30 minutes to an hour just to get
Mhm.
from like one place to another. And it's just, yeah, the normalcy of 2 years ago is coming back. Ramdam ko siya this Christmas season.
I know as much as we wanted to be back to normal, at the same time, it's like, okay, now I feel like we hoped for too much. You could have learned a thing or two maybe
Yeah.
during the pandemic.
Like there are things you would rather not have back. But
Yeah,
why are these the first things to come back?
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. But now that it's over, the pandemic that is, if not officially in terms of activity and mentally
Yeah.
for many people, have you reflected on what the pandemic actually taught us in terms of creating or blocking happiness?
Mm. I think, I think the pandemic did one of two things, right? It's either you're kind of like me and you realize that, oh, you know what, I actually enjoy the calm and the grounding. And maybe this is what success looks like. Maybe I shouldn't have to be keep on chasing something or
Mhm.
goals in order to be happy. Maybe it's just me, being by myself, spending time with the dogs or spending time with family, and that's the aha moment.
Yeah.
And there are some of us who just kind of realize that, I don't think I signed up for all of this. Like, I don't. I would have clients who would share that, I don't think I signed up to have like a husband and three kids, because now that, like, they're stuck at home with a husband and three kids, they're just realizing like how much in terms of connection, just how sometimes how little there is, or how hard
Yes.
it is for them, because they've gotten so used to the routine of, oh, I just see him in the mornings and then I'm at work and then I come home at night and spend time with them there, and that's kind of it. I have this structure to my life. But now
Yes.
when life and work kind of come together and you're all stuck at home,
Mhm.
that became problematic for a lot of people. So
Yes.
I kind of feel you're either in one boat or the other. Either you really enjoyed it and you grew a lot and you learned a lot about yourself, or the other where you did learn a lot about yourself and it's stuff that you didn't really like, or stuff that you realize that, oh, I have a lot that I need to work on.
Yeah, and it's true though. I like that you mentioned that there was structure before, this whole pandemic thing that made life more a life at home, I guess, like more tolerable, especially if you have your own family. You have a young family, a growing family too, because they
Yeah.
have school, you have work, there is that space in between, and then you guys go home and come together and you realize how much time that you actually spend together, which actually isn't a lot. And then and then during the pandemic you were forced to spend more time, it's like,
Mm.
this is a lot more work than I signed up
Yeah.
for a bit.
It-
Not that they resent it anyway, but they had to work through it.
yeah. You know what's kind of funny is with a lot of the couple clients that I would work with, like, we grow as human beings, every week, every month, every year. And it's funny that, with a lot of couples, because of the structure of, oh, I only see him or her in the mornings and then before I go to bed, we
Yeah.
have this idea of who they are in our head.
Mhm.
And then during the pandemic, like, they had to sit down with each other and kind of just reintroduce each other of, oh no, that wasn't the person that you have in your head, isn't me anymore. Like, that was that person from like 3 years ago. This is who I am now.
Mm,
And it's either a rude awakening, or or a very pleasant reintroduction, depending on, I guess, how the partner takes it. But a lot
mhm.
of people realize just how different the person is that they're living with at home, just how different they are from when they first kind of went into the relationship with them. So that was kind of funny as well, honestly.
Yeah, because it was kind of like they were basically almost joined at the hip during the pandemic if they had to share a home. So I'm sure a lot of things were brought to the surface that they didn't
Mm.
know about their partners and had to be, and it was revealed during that moment in time. Hopefully they
Revealed is the word for sure.
figured. Now, what were the worst, or rather, the most unfavorable things that you think that we did or thought during the pandemic that created unhappiness for us?
Hmm. I think the first one was because we kind of had the rug pulled out from under us during the pandemic, was a lot of us kind of went into panic mode, right? And it was there was a lot of catastrophizing going on. A lot of people were playing out worst case scenarios. We had a shortage in like alcohol and masks.
And tissue.
And in the US, there was a toilet paper, the toilet paper incident. But like we Asian, we have our tabo, we're good.
Exactly, exactly.
So I think there was a little bit of that, and really you could see the different ways that people react to stress. And I think that was really the kind of major cause of unhappiness. But I think on the other end of the spectrum, at the same time, what I kind of loved seeing, especially in our country, and when I would kind of see the news in like the US, etc., is just the that spirit of bayanihan, of people
Mm.
coming together and wanting to help one another. Like I'd have neighbors like knock on my door asking, oh, like do you have enough vegetables, do you have enough rice,
Wow,
like I
yeah.
bought extra, here's a little something for you. And for me, like that was at least what I remember from the start of the pandemic, of just how people started treating each other. Like there were people who would kind of go around like our village and give out like rice and canned goods and stuff to like the construction workers who were like stuck in
Yeah.
whatever building it was that they were constructing, and just checking up on them. There were people feeding the stray dogs just to make sure that they had something to eat. So while yes, we did catastrophize, for ourselves, we did kind of hoard a lot of canned goods and dry goods and stuff. I was definitely guilty of that. On the other end of the spectrum, there were people who also realized that, oh, I think I bought way too much and I should probably share it with, my neighbors and just other people.
Yeah, and just to see, and actually, like in reflection, it made us really think like how much do we really need and how much we can actually give. Like it did open up. Well, actually, either that or it just showed the true colors of a particular person and just not want to share. But
Yeah,
but in terms of bayanihan, yeah, I do agree that was something that was really nice to see and help like inspire us also to kind of be better because and be kind to one another because
for sure.
we're all under the pandemic. We were all under the pandemic and so but we all had different levels of struggle for
Yeah.
sure. So
Mm.
so now though, looking back, not that it was so long ago. Now that it's 2022, what has this year taught you so far in terms of being happy?
And that's a really good question. Um, what I kind of realized just coming out of it, and also looking at the clients that I work with, who have kind of come out of the pandemic with me, is we're in such a great space to really practice kindness and compassion. There are still people that are struggling, getting out of the pandemic. Yes, we're all in the same storm, but not all of us are on the same boat.
Yeah.
And just, being able to practice, or being able to have the awareness that, oh, I think I need to be a little bit more kinder, maybe more compassionate to, let's say, like my server, at the restaurant. They're probably still understaffed, they're probably still struggling.
Yeah.
This person is probably waiting on, tables that should have been for two people. And being able to just have that awareness and be able to step back and maybe not throw a hissy fit, right? Or maybe not complain and vent too much. And just being able to really be in the moment, I feel. Um, my kind of guilty pleasure right now is I just like to drive around our village and just kind of take in like the trees, look up at the sky, because
Yeah.
that's something that we couldn't really do during the pandemic. Like we had this, there was a time, I don't know if you remember, there was this, like, we were given like an hour, was it like 6 to 8 a.m. or something,
To be
where
outdoors.
people could exercise. Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody was outdoors at that time, and you couldn't really enjoy it because between
Mhm.
being paranoid about getting COVID and social distancing and trying to, like, how far is like 6 feet,
Yeah, it's
you,
counterintuitive a little bit.
right? Like you couldn't really take in the moment. You really couldn't have, just be mindful and take everything in. So it's really those little things, being able to look at the world through the eyes of a child and just appreciate, where we're at for what it is and not
True.
judge it, I feel is also like one of my big aha moments. Because I think before this, we were so in our heads, right? It was always, okay, what's the next thing to do? What's the next project? What's
That's
the
right.
next
Yeah.
goal? And the pandemic just really put everything to a halt. And we
Mm-hmm.
literally know what it feels like now to be stuck indoors for like a year plus. So now all the little things, right? Like seeing the trees grow. Like I have like flame trees, like that outside on my street. And the thing that I would look forward to during the pandemic is the summertime to just kind of see the orangey red blossoms bloom and just kind of enjoy that. And it's something that we really didn't pay attention to as much now. But I don't know, maybe that's just the plantita in me, but like I really enjoyed seeing that. So there, the little things.
Yeah, for sure. Like enjoying the little things and trying to remember to be kinder and more compassionate. I mean, those are great things to kind of reflect on, especially now that this is the new normal, which is
Mm,
almost like the usual, but new. I don't know. But anyway, it almost feels like it's the same old, same old. But
mm.
as a happiness coach, your mission, quite literally, is to coach happiness. And that leads us to the question, what is happiness for most people? Now, I actually want to split this up into two questions.
Okay.
Um, what is happiness for you? And what do most people believe happiness is?
Good question. Love that. Okay. Yeah, tricky question. So I guess for me, if I was to share what happiness is for me, it's really, being able to do stuff like this. I really love sharing and, equipping people with tools in order to be happier, and for being able, as I said earlier, to be able to look at the world through the eyes of a child and just have that enthusiasm and excitement throughout life. For me, that's what happiness is. For a lot of my clients, when we start on their happiness journey, a lot of what they think happiness is achieving certain goals, right? I want to earn X amount of money. I want to get this career. I want to lose a certain amount of weight. And when this happens, I will be happy.
Nice.
That really, honestly, is such a setup for failure
Mhm.
because you're only going to be happy probably 5 minutes and then it's on to the next. So, the journey for happiness is also one of the longest journeys that we ever take, which is starting from our head and going down to heart space. How do
Mm,
we get out of our heads and how do we kind of start living our life, through what I like to call heart work?
okay.
So
Hard work.
developing relationships that matter to you, finding your purpose and being able to do that enthusiastically, manifesting, whatever, how much abundance it is that you want, because there is also that goal of, oh, I want to be able to share this with my family and friends. So, once we kind of start thinking, less about just me and more we, that's where the happiness really comes in.
It's not just about like in the happiness that you can feel, but to be able to share it with other people and see them happy also. Because it's a magnet, isn't it? Like, happiness, it does radiate. There's a different energy or frequency that you're at if you are,
Mm,
if you are happy. So totally agree with that as well. But I mean, understanding it is one thing, but actually living it is a completely different thing, I'm sure. But so there are some people who, feel low and they're miserable and they say melodramatically, possibly, I'll never be happy because
yeah.
maybe they've been they just had the worst luck in terms of, well, in whatever aspect in their life, like nothing
Mm,
seems going right for them. So
yeah.
are there people though who are destined to be unhappy? Like does the doom and gloom follow some people who are naturally malas?
Well, I don't really believe that people are naturally malas, but I do believe that happiness is a choice.
Okay.
Right? And we do make choices. I mean, you don't have to be miserable 24/7. Something could happen to you, and of course, your feelings are 100% valid. If you feel frustration, if you feel sadness, if you feel despair, definitely go through those feelings, because those are where the really good life lessons are. Like, right? Like, what is this feeling teaching me? But
Yes. Yes.
then there also needs to come a point where you kind of tell yourself, okay, thank you, I've learned the lesson, I'm ready to let this go now, and I'm ready to be in a better place for myself, right? Because a lot of us, I think, like, what I usually tell my clients is, oh, okay lang na okay lang na bumisita, like whatever that feeling is.
Mhm.
Pero bawal siyang mamahay, because once na mamahay na siya, then that becomes your mood, then that becomes who you are. And that is not the only human emotion that we're supposed to be experiencing as human beings. So yes, we do experience lows, but we also need to acknowledge the highs. And for a lot of people, that is what they struggle with.
Yes.
It's just because we've just been taught to kind of um, to see, the negative. I call them negastars. Like sa sampung kwento na maganda that you share, they could
Mhm.
probably find 15 things wrong with it.
Yeah, that's so true. Because it's always a bad thing, even if it's almost similar to you can do maybe you can do everything right, but like the single mistake that you make, that's what you're going to remember the most, right?
Exactly.
Just like it's that little what do you call this? It's like a blemish, I guess, that you kind of fixate on, right?
Mm,
So it's really just something that it's definitely hard for us to try and move on from. But I like that you mentioned, these feelings na bumisita lang pero hindi mamamahay. I
mm,
how do we how do we get to that space when it's time to let go of that feeling?
mm. Well, that's a good question. For me, well, it really depends, really, like, right, like what we're going through. Like, if it's the what level of emotion. So let's say if it's just frustration, frustrated lang tayo. Let's not choose to be frustrated the entire day, right?
Okay.
We can choose to be frustrated for 5 minutes, and maybe ask ourselves, so where is this frustration really coming from? Like, is it really from this person, or is it because something happened to me like yesterday and this thing is triggering it? Like, what's going
Mhm.
on here? So the faster that you can identify what the emotion is, the faster you can really detach, right? Because okay, I know what you are, and I can figure out like where you came from.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, and then you're out the door. I need to move on with my life, right?
Of course.
And then you have like the bigger emotions, like grief, like a loss of a loved one, for
Yeah.
example, which can be really hard to shake. And that's where you can tell yourself, you know what, I don't feel that I can move on for my grief today. So I'm just going to sit with it, and then tomorrow, will I be ready? I need to sit with it. And you'll know when you're ready, because you'll be able to tell yourself that, you know what, I think I need to start letting this go now. I think that I need to start moving on with my life. So I'm going to give myself maybe till the end of the week to feel sad, to cry, etc. And then I need to let this go, and I need to move on with my life. And the sadness is still there, but then it won't be as deep as it was when you kind of put a timeline, or you kind of put a schedule to it. Yeah, and then life usually takes over, and then you just move on with it, and you grow around that feeling, right?
Mhm.
And then you move forward.
I love that you said that so gracefully, actually, because a lot of us, right, we have these, people around us, like, they love us and they care for us, but sometimes they don't really have the right words. It's like, oh, you'll get over it or something. And
Yeah.
it's very difficult to, like, to feel validated in the feelings that you have. So
Mm,
for you to actually say, and this is a reminder, I guess, for the monsters who are tuned in, like it's okay to sit with it, but eventually, like, and but give yourself a timeline. So I think that's very
mm.
important, and that's something I'm taking home today, also from this
I,
episode for sure.
I think as well with a lot of us Filipinos is we do not actually give ourselves like permission almost to
Yes.
go into these deep feelings,
Yeah.
especially when we view them as negative. You
Yeah.
know, the limiting belief that a lot of us Filipinos had, because it's ingrained in the culture, is we always have to be happy, right? If
Yes.
you are not happy, then oh my gosh, ingrata, you know, like you eat 3 times a day, you have a roof over your head, you have no reason not to be happy. It'll reflect badly on the family, it'll reflect badly on you. So
Mhm.
growing up, we are kind of, you know, consciously or subconsciously, we've been taught to, you know, keep those feelings down, put a smile on our face,
Yes.
and
Oh,
that's the end of that. So, really, with our happiness journeys, part of it is really learning we're not even at emotional intelligence yet, we're still at emotional literacy, right? Learning to find and identify what is this feeling that I'm going through. Am I angry ba? What level of angry am I?
mhm.
So I can identify it and I can move on because we were never given the vocabulary growing up. Our
That's so
parents never
sad.
asked us.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
and
for us, that's the huge part of the journey.
yeah, it's and I think it's also like a generational gap in that sense that, that I feel like now, since there seems to be this trend of like, of us being trying to be more aware of the things that
Mm,
we and being more mindful of the experiences that we've gone through or triggers our trauma so that,
mm,
we don't have to pass it down, I guess, should we have children or should we have like mga pamangkin, like
yeah,
we don't have to be that same, have to have the same upbringing or give them the same upbringing that we had.
yeah,
So that's really important. I love that you said that, like it's pretty much ingrained in our culture. That's true. Like we have to, like we were taught to just be happy. But I think what's the difference? I actually want to know what's the difference between is there a difference between happiness and
mm.
gratitude, like being grateful?
Oh, you know what? Gra- Gratitude is actually the cornerstone of happiness.
Okay.
So one of the first homework or like assignments that I would give my clients is to keep a gratitude journal.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
during their happiness journey. And the reason why we do this is because, in terms of neuroplasticity, what you're doing with a gratitude journal, which is basically at the end of the day, you kind of just sit down with it and then you think of the 3 things that you're grateful for that day. It
Mhm.
sounds like a pretty simple, nonsensical exercise, but what you're actually doing as you keep up the habit is, you're training your brain to actually become more positive. It's called learned optimism. So what's happening is slowly, the neuroplasticity or the you know the wires in your brain slowly reprograms it in order to for you to focus and look for things to be grateful for. So usually people would start off kind of sitting down and going, ugh, what am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for today? What should I write down? And then eventually they're going to notice that when something good happens to them, they go, that's going into my gratitude journal tonight. So it becomes automatic. And that's when you can kind of see that, okay, this is working.
Yeah,
And
that's so good.
slowly, right? And then slowly you don't pay that much attention to the negative stuff that's happening in your life because you are just too busy being grateful for the good things.
Mm.
And that's where people become lucky. It's because they see what's happening to them instead of people who feel that they're unlucky because all they're focusing on is the negativity.
And I think in some way it could be some form of conditioning also that, you already gravitate towards the good things that happen in the day because you're kind of looking forward to put it into the journal also. I think like
Exactly.
that's so smart. That's so smart. I should have a gratitude journal too.
You should. I recommend it to everybody. Everybody should keep that. Super simple,
Yeah,
right?
for
3
sure.
things you're grateful for.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like that could make a difference for sure. And I actually have observed, I have been trying to be more grateful for, in little things every single day. Even today, like
Mm,
I was grateful for actually treating myself out. Like I've been like having meal preps like for this
mm,
week. Today I decided to treat myself out, and I'm like, I'm so grateful. Like, thanks, Nikki, for
yeah.
for
Yeah.
treating.
Where did you go? What did you do?
Oh, I just had no, I just ate out. I just had like, like really good beef tapa for like lunch, and it was
Mm,
just so delicious, no regrets whatsoever.
hmm.
The calories are all worth it.
I think I saw that on your stories. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I love that place, and just savoring a meal that you didn't have to cook yourself is such a treat.
Mhm. And to be able to take yourself out on like a date with yourself, that's just
Yeah.
like it's an art, and I encourage everybody to do it as well, because it's just nice to if you can be
Yeah.
comfortable in your own space by yourself in
Mm.
public, having a meal by yourself. I think like that's that's like a different level of like comfort that you have within yourself for sure.
It's a fantastic self-love ritual, definitely. Because yeah, it's weird how some people can't sit by themselves in a
Yeah,
restaurant.
it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Now, so in terms of so being grateful and being happy, these are very difficult. I mean, not they are difficult for some people, especially
Mm.
for those who, like we mentioned earlier, who think that they're malas because of just
Yeah.
like a string of negative experiences that they've had,
That
maybe
that they
since
choose to focus
childhood.
on.
Yeah, yeah, and so
That they choose to focus
how
on.
do
Yeah.
we how what's a healthy way, I guess, may even if it's not like a chronic kind of like trauma that's happening to them, but because they magnify it so much, they feel like they
Mm.
are malas. So
Yeah.
what's a healthy way to accept one's victim story without letting it define who they are?
Yeah.
Because okay, so if you're being aware, you kind of know that it plays into your limiting beliefs because like all of these things
Mm.
happen. So once you make that, when you're aware of that, what's the next step?
Mm. Yeah. I love that. So I love that you mentioned victim story because that's totally what it is, right? A lot of us love to be the negastar in our own story. um, but for me, lean into that. What is the story that you keep telling yourself? Let's lean into that. But instead of just, telling the story as it is, maybe start it off with buti na lang, or
Mm.
I'm so grateful this happened to me because, so that way, instead of focusing on all the bad stuff that happened to you, we can go digging for the lessons. I really believe that life throws us lessons, and it comes in cycles, and if we don't learn it the first time, it'll come back in another
Absolutely.
form or another person, but it's the
Mhm.
same lesson. And a lot of the times, these negastars, what happens is they don't realize what's happening to them. They don't realize, oh, this is what I should have been learning. Maybe it's, oh, maybe I should learn how to say no more, or maybe I need to work on my boundaries, or maybe I need to know what love looks like for me, so I'm not constantly looking for other people to fill this void for me. This is supposed to be my responsibility.
Mm.
So really starting off your victim story with buti na lang, for me, is such a great tool just to reframe it and just bring awareness to, so what are the lessons here, right? So I can kind of, I'm done with this. I learned the lesson. Okay, this is what I should do. And now I can move on and look forward to the rest of my life and kind of look at life excitedly, going, okay, what's next? Like, I got this. What's next?
Yeah, and it's something, and you're no longer like it kind of minimizes the fear now. If you want to go and pursue something, you don't dwell on the what if it goes wrong, but instead
Mm,
of like what can you learn for this, no matter what happens, right? So I feel like that could be something that we can try and instill and
yeah.
not be afraid and not really, give so much, not put our victim story on a pedestal. So
Mm,
like for such a long time, like we can take it down now and just like
exactly.
and
Yeah.
try and
Or,
achieve it.
or just reframing failure and failing in general, and just know that this is me failing forward. As long as I'm not quitting, I'm not really failing. This is just the next step to the next version of me that I
Yes,
probably need to create. So
absolutely.
really looking at it from a more optimistic point of view, instead of telling yourself that, oh, I'm a failure, this already happened, etc. This will just happen again. Doesn't really set you up to win, right? So
Mhm.
set yourself up to win. You deserve
Failing forward, I feel like that should be a t-shirt.
it.
Failing forward. That's just I feel like so that we're not so afraid of failure, because that's why a lot of us are stuck where we are, or we don't start the things that we want to do in our lives,
Yeah,
because because we're so afraid that we might fail. But it's part of the journey, and it's something that we can always learn from if we just take our
exactly.
time, of course, from like in dissecting like what can we learn from it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how much time though? Okay, so let's say negative experiences happen. How much time, I guess, does one need to heal in order to become happy, or can you already
Mm.
happy during the process?
For me, happiness is a choice.
Mm,
So again, you can definitely choose to be happy as you fail. Like I said, looking at your failure, for example, as more of, oh, this is really exciting because I'm learning new things from this, rather than, oh my gosh, like I'm so scared and I'm so pessimistic that it's going to happen again. I'm just not going to do it. you
mhm.
know Fear and excitement, they kind of show up the same in terms of like how it shows up in our bodies, right? Like you get the
Yeah,
butterflies in your stomach, you
that's
kind of
true.
sweat a little bit, the heart palpitations are there.
Mhm.
So I like to joke around with my clients whenever I tell them, okay, just observe how the fear shows up in your body, and just tell yourself, I'm excited. So,
Yes.
right? And you just kind of, it's, and then you just tell yourself, no, I'm excited. I'm just really super excited. Like, I'm just really, really excited. And eventually that becomes the feeling, and you associate, the butterflies in your stomach and the heart palpitations, you associate it with excitement, and that just changes the perspective of whatever it is that you're going through.
Yeah, and
So
there is
again,
to that for sure, because like, and I do share this with people whenever they tell me like they're so nervous about something, or maybe it's meeting
mm,
someone or even talking on air. If I'm training like my student jocks here,
mm,
I always tell them it's like the brain light your fear, if you're scared or nervous or excited, it lights up the same part of the brain, so your brain actually doesn't know
exactly.
if you're scared or excited, so it's up to
Yeah.
you to just
It's a
decide.
choice. Yeah.
Yes. Or if you're excited, then I just like tell yourself that you're excited, and like it actually kind of helps them too. And I love learning about that, for sure. Like in one of the documentaries that I've watched
Mm.
before, so it's been helpful, definitely. Now, in terms of relationships,
Mhm.
as a happiness coach, what does a happy and healthy relationship look like for you?
Ooh, great question. Um, you know, it, the a happy relationship really depends on the couple, right? Like how would you define it? But I think one of the cornerstones is having open, honest communication.
Yes.
Um, and what I mean by this, it isn't just for the good things, it isn't just for the bad things as well. It's for the things that you're unsure of. So let's say, for example, how we are sometimes we have conversations that are a little bit uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right? And then we kind of don't want to be 100% honest, or because we're afraid that we might hurt their feelings, and then the misunderstanding comes along, and then we catastrophize, etc., and then it just blows up into this whole drama, right? So learning tools on how to communicate and have sentences or conversations in your pocket, such as, when you don't talk to me, this is what's going on in my head, in order
Yeah.
to just get to get no, 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 that's totally not what, that's totally not what I mean by this, blah, blah, blah. And then you can start that conversation. Just being honest and saying, like when you give me the silent treatment, I tend to catastrophize in my head and I go to worst case scenario. So this is what I think. And being able to share that with your partner, I think it's such a great way to build the communication. And again, going back to Filipinos and our culture of, we have this tendency to be passive aggressive when it comes to relationships. And that's what I do a lot of coaching around. And we have specific words for the things that we do. Like a great one is, when you are, let's say, mad at your boyfriend or your husband or your wife. No, actually, it's more a woman thing. So when we get mad, when we get mad, we kind of shut down. So you might be at the Christmas party with your boyfriend or your husband, and they might have said something that you kind of didn't like and didn't agree with. And what we would do is, voila, we won't say anything, right? And then he'll kind of go, oh, what happened? Like, did I do something wrong? And you're like, no, are you mad? Like, what happened? What did I do? And all you say is like, no, wala, bala ka. Right? And we give them the cold shoulder.
Oh my God.
Right? And we have such a Pinoy word for that, and we call it tampo, nagtatampo.
Yes.
Right? And that's part of the culture, right? So what the poor husband or boyfriend would do is they are going to try to intuit. Itatry nilang i-Bluetooth. Ano ba nararamdaman ng taong ito? Ano bang ginawa ko? Ano bang kasalanan ko? And then they try to kind of figure out, okay, what would, paano kami magbabate? Oh, what do you want? Do you want to go get something to eat? Do you want to get dessert?
That's like always
Like they're
fun.
right. They're trying to figure out, like, so I know what do you want? What will make you happy? What will make this tampo stop? And we also have a very Filipino word for it. We call it suyo, right? So you have the tampo suyo cycle, which in high school, I guess, was kind of cute, but as grown adults, probably not the healthiest way to kind of go about a relationship. So really being able to identify as well, like for you, being responsible for your own emotions and being able to tell your partner that, what you said during the Christmas party, I felt, really left me frustrated. Could you please just not do that again? Right. And he goes, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that, that you took it that way. All right. I will never bring up that topic, blah, blah, blah. And that could end there and you could move on with, the rest of your life. But instead we choose to do this tampo suyo cycle, which I don't know, maybe at the start of the relationship, it's cute, but it really sets relationships up to fail. So really going back to your question, being able to learn how to have open, honest conversations, really, really important for a happy couple and a happy relationship.
I totally agree on that for sure. And really I feel like that's one of the hardest things when it comes to even like dating, because you don't know, so you can only meet the person to the level of how much they know themselves too. So
Yeah.
it's just so hard to try and, open up to someone who is just maybe half open and hasn't
Yeah.
really discovered themselves yet. So
And
it's a
or
struggle.
people with trust issues as
Yeah.
well, where you're trying to have an open conversation and they're still at that point where they're kind of like, I need to trust you first. You need to earn my trust before
Mhm.
I can like be this open and honest, et cetera with you. So it's really having those, even being able to say that, I have trust issues. So, I'm sorry if I can only meet you. At least, they say if they can set that expectation, then that would be better. And it's still an open, honest conversation, right?
True. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hope monsters, if you guys are listening, you can learn a thing or two if you guys want your relationship to not fail. Open and honest communication is definitely key. Now, thank you for sharing, your take on that. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I have to bring you back for like another episode about relationships, man, as a
Sige, game.
because I feel like there's a lot to like dig through. So,
Oh, there's a whole lot, girl. There's a whole lot to dig through.
but now we're talking about the holiday season. So, okay,
Mm,
let's get into it. So, we greet each other Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, but do you think there's, pressure now on people to be happy during the season? And can this eventually lead to
mm.
unhappiness, depression, or even more than that?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I think that there was more of a pressure for like that fake happiness and cheer
Mm.
before the pandemic started. I
Oh,
think
okay.
because of the pandemic, people have kind of realized that, yeah, you know what, like especially during when was that, like 2020, right? We kind of realized that, okay, let's not do the fake happy cheery stuff because nobody's feeling it, right?
Yeah.
Like we're stuck in a pandemic. We can't go see our friends or families, and I think that kind of started that honesty with the holidays. There used to be so much pressure, right? Like August pa lang, people are like buying like Christmas presents and trying to think of, okay, what's a good gift like to give my client and like my sister-in-law and whatever,
Yes.
right? But now there is an honest conversation of like, you know what, we're getting through the pandemic. Things aren't really what it used to be. We're in a recession. So we can kind of adjust expectations. And what I'm really seeing, what's happening to a lot of us now is quality time has been kind of the greatest gifts that we could really give each other. When we tell our friends that, oh, I'd love to like meet with you and sit down to lunch and just catch up. I noticed like that's kind of more of the trend instead of like trying to figure out like Christmas presents, etc. And I kind of see there's a lot of people just learning to hold space for each other as well, because we just came out of this, we're slowly coming out of this thing. We still get cases here and there, but we miss the company of each other. And I think people also realize that it's the quality of the company that counts.
Yes.
So the conversations have kind of changed as well. I notice people have deeper conversations now, and people are sharing their aha moments instead of the kind of like, nice and phony, and were you able to watch, like, what series are you catching up on? Now it's really more of, what, like, this is my struggle that I kind of realize that I'm going through now. And then somebody chimes in and they're like, oh, we're in the same boat. I totally feel you. Let me know like what support you need, because I just went through that. So I think maybe before there was a kind of fake kind of cheeriness that we always had to have a smile on our face, but
Yeah.
definitely moving through the pandemic, I love that there is this authenticity that is coming out. And people really choose the people that they like to spend time with now. It's not like this fake, oh, we have to attend like 10 Christmas parties, and I probably only want to go to two, and I don't like half the people there, but we still have to go. Right now, now people are learning boundaries, which is a really good thing. They're learning to say no.
That's true. And I'll be honest also, like I'm not really the biggest fan actually of the Christmas season. Like for the
Mm,
past 4 years. Like it's because I feel like, and this is like just personal, and I don't know if this resonates with other monsters who are listening as well. It's a time of the year that where when I feel like there's a lot that's expected from me. It's the end of the year, everything is piling up. There's a sense of
mm,
togetherness, but there's
yeah,
also lots of isolation in between. So like
yeah.
what should I what should I keep in mind then when the holidays can feel overwhelming?
Mm. Well, number one, like when you feel overwhelmed, stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. Take a look at your schedule, and maybe in a week, just pick two or three that really matters to you. Right?
Oh,
I mean, being able to, you can say no. Like, people will forgive you for turning down a Christmas party because you are tired, because you are overwhelmed. Like I said, I think this pandemic has really taught us kindness and compassion, right? And there's a lot less trying to look good. I
mm,
feel I feel that the pandemic has kind of broken down a lot of that. So, if you do feel overwhelmed, really go through your schedule and just pick the ones that matter. Pick the ones that really matter to you. And just stick to that. I mean, if it's an office party and you don't, it's not, you're overwhelmed for the week, you can turn it down. That's okay. You're gonna see them next year anyway. So pick the ones where maybe you want to spend quality time with balikbayan relatives that are here. Do that. Or you really want to catch up with your high school barkada that you haven't seen in ages. If that matters to you, then do that. Another thing as well for me is keeping a Christmas playlist. Um,
Oh,
so
okay.
what I say when I mean Christmas playlist is like a list of songs that keep me sane, not necessarily Christmas songs. Like I have like Whitney Houston's Higher Love here,
Ooh.
and a couple of upbeat ones that just help me to change my mood whenever I kind of feel stressed and overwhelmed. Having to people, what do they call? I'm an extroverted introvert. So
Mm,
I can people, but I get tired.
yeah.
So for me, having a playlist that kind of helps to recharge you, and just helps to change your energy as well, change your mood, definitely helps a lot.
Okay. All right. I will take a
Mm.
moment and I will look at my schedule after
Yeah.
the show and see where.
Figure out which ones you want to say no to. A lot of
Yeah.
the times, we want to show up for everybody, but then we end up not showing up for ourselves, right? And then we go home and we feel tired and miserable, and we feel that we have to do this all again, and it's simply because you didn't have enough boundaries for yourself. You didn't put yourself first, you put
Mm,
other people first, and then you feel resentment for it.
yes. Some of us have to grow out of our people pleasing
Mm.
personality. We've actually grown up. I think that was like something that was nurtured for a lot of us for sure. So
Oh,
learn
it's
to say
definitely in the culture too.
no. Absolutely. Now, there's different episodes, Kathy, that we're gonna have to tackle next year, so that we
Let's go through it.
yeah, exactly. I love it. Now, well, there are also other listeners that say holidays can also be triggering for other reasons.
Mm,
Now, like burr months, let's say, synonymous with breakups. And like maybe there's
mm,
a history of getting their heart broken during this period, or maybe they experience loss, like unexpected
mm,
loss of a loved one, their job, their pet. Okay, now I'm scared
mm.
during the Christmas season, and it can be a downward spiral if we linger on that trigger. So, how
Yeah.
can we anchor ourselves while still
Mm,
acknowledging that traumatic event? And we're here
yeah.
in that season.
Yeah. Well, again, it really goes back to having a gratitude practice. So, whatever feelings that you're going through, it's completely valid. I'm not saying to, shift and choose to be happy right away, because there are big lessons there, right? Big lessons, especially in grief, in mourning. The big lesson there is, oh, you know what? This person, or this pet really meant a lot to me, and I maybe should have probably given them more attention, probably should have told them I loved them more, should have probably hugged them more while they were here. And while I am grieving this person, the lesson is probably like, who else in my life do I feel the same for? That I
Mm,
should probably be doing this, telling them I love them more, giving them more hugs, spending more time with them. There are big lessons there. And in realizing the lessons, you also kind of realize what to be grateful for, right? I'm so thankful that I still have these people in my life. So while I may have lost this person, I am going to shift all this love that I kind of regret not giving to them to my family, or to this person, or to my friends. And taking a look around and seeing who shows up for you, and just being grateful that, oh my gosh, like this is my support system, right? Like I didn't ask for them, they just kind of gathered around me, and I'm just so grateful that I have these, this quality of friends and family in my
yeah.
life. So, we all go through life experiencing loss, experiencing sadness, and they're normal human emotions. But of course, we also need to figure out how to kind of move through them or move with them and still be able to, live the quality of life that we want, and to still be able to look for the gratitude in whatever it is that's happening around us. And that's the learned optimism. That's the shift.
I love that. So much we can learn from like learned optimism from a gratitude journal and how it can apply to to anything that is what it is, whatever it is that we are going through. So hopefully
Mm,
this helps somebody who is, or more than just one person who is listening this evening. Now, before we go, I just want to talk also about your career and your in your
mm,
personal journey. So how did you become a happiness coach? How did you feel like there was a need for you to become a
mm.
happiness coach?
Oh, well, I actually, I used to work corporate. I worked a lot of jobs. And for me, happiness and success looked like climbing the corporate ladder, not getting enough sleep, being a workaholic.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that was like, if I reached a certain level of success, earned a certain amount, etc., then I would be happy. I fell into that trap and I flamed out, completely burned out. And I got really sick for like 3 months.
Wow.
And that was my big aha moment was, this isn't working for me. And this shouldn't be how life, this shouldn't be how life is, that, we just climb corporate ladder, or we aim for to earn a certain amount every month, and that's it. Um so I kind of needed to take a break. I needed to take a pause, and I kind of went back to coaching. I had a life coach when I was around like 18, 19,
Oh,
and he was the one that made me realize. His name is Max Salazar. So he was the one that made me realize that, your life is a choice. And for some reason, when I completely flamed out, his was like the voice that I heard.
mhm.
And I was like, you know what? Like, I really want to give back. Like, I was a life coach, saved my life. I think I want to pay it forward and kind of continue his legacy, by doing what I do. So, I took the life coaching classes, got accredited, put in the hours, because I realized that it really is in the culture. So, coaching happiness, my coaching service really is about creating a better world, one Filipino at a time. And I think it's because tayo mga Pinoy, like, we really lead with the heart. Like, we are so heart centered.
Mhm.
But we also have a lot of limiting beliefs that we carry that do not serve us, that keep us playing small,
Mhm.
that keep us from being authentically happy, because we were taught to just put a smile on our face and just be. Right. So, my goal as a coach really is to introduce these tools like emotional literacy, like gratitude, and maybe learning how to communicate, better, and express your feelings, and not be afraid of other people's feedback, because we're so afraid of being judged
Yeah.
when, this is something that, we do every day to each other, and it doesn't affect us. At the end of the day, we go home with our own problems and our own issues, but
Yeah.
we still keep thinking that other people are, are taking time to talk about us when we
So
get home and judge us. So really that, and just how can I live this, my big vision that I want to create for myself, and how can I make that happen? I think that's another thing, because we're so used to being of service to others first, that we don't realize that we should always be putting ourselves first, so we can be of service to more people.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just like that saying, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So
Yeah,
if you burn yourself out, like, helping other people, like, who's gonna take care of you at the end of the day? So
exactly. But it's so automatic for us, for lalo sa ating mga Pilipino, I mean, like, what is our number one export, right? It's OFWs, and
Yes.
they're almost always in the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for me, yeah, so for me, like, these are the people that I really want to be of service to. Those who need to realize that, oh, I need to put myself first. Otherwise, I'm just going to burn out.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope that you really reach one Filipino at a time, or one convention at a time, let's say, so that it's there's more people
That would be
to
a good goal. Yeah.
right, be able to, share that, yeah, you don't have to, live small and feel small in a space that you can fill in, like, a much bigger space, like in your
Mm.
life, and show up for yourself, not just for other people. So, monsters, please just take note of that. And I guess if you want, to learn more about that, you got Kathi Rañeses over here to help you out, figure and lead the way. Now, before we go, um, how so what are, like, some of the last minute things you can think of that can help us remember to be happy during the holidays, but
Mm.
also, leading into next year?
Yeah. For me, it's really trust your gut, listen to your gut, listen to yourself. And being happy doesn't mean that you're going to be happy 24/7. Happiness, all happiness is knowing that whatever emotion it is that I'm going through, I can always go back and choose to be happy. I think one really small thing that I want to kind of just bring awareness to, that we're all kind of guilty of, is toxic positivity, right?
Yes.
Wherein somebody is sharing a problem or an issue, and we automatically say, "Hindi, okay lang yan, kaya mo yan," without
Mhm.
really hearing them. The way I like to describe toxic positivity is really, my comfort means more to me than your issues, which is why I'm just kind of slapping a band-aid on that so we can move on to the next. So
Yes.
also just being aware of when you're doing that, because you are, being a disservice to whoever it is that's trying to ask you to hold space for them. But at the same time, you're giving yourself a disservice for not being authentic. So instead of saying, I don't think I have the bandwidth to listen to this right now, can we schedule it for another time, right?
Right.
Or, oh, you know what, I don't think I'm the best person that's equipped to give you the best advice for this. Can we talk about something else? Is a great way to kind of escape we all have that holiday, that cousin or that tito who just likes to dump on us.
Mm,
um, and our
yes.
automatic response is to be like toxically positive, like, okay lang yan, tito, kaya mo yan. So really being able to notice when you're doing that, and then not do that and choose a different avenue, I feel, is a perfect challenge for those who are going to be, celebrating their Christmas parties with friends and loved ones, and a good practice of going back and choosing yourself and choosing to be happy by not allowing that into your life.
Yeah, and like, just that's basically an example of setting your boundaries too, because
Yeah.
if you don't want to deal with it, then you don't have to deal with it, with whatever it is that they're spewing onto you, whatever
Mm,
problems that they have, and they're laying it on you. So, I think, I think the important part about setting boundaries is also not thinking that, it's like a bad thing, because I mean, I feel like that's something that's a common misconception, that, setting
mm,
boundaries makes you selfish, when
yeah.
in reality it's really protecting yourself, your mental health, if needed, and your well-being too.
Exactly. It's teaching people how you want to be treated.
Yes,
Mm.
so true. So much I have learned. I'm talking like Yoda. So much I have learned tonight. But that's the effect. That's the effect of, like, coach, I guess, this evening. Well, we've learned so much, and I hope the monsters who have been listening since the start of the show have learned a thing or two on happiness, and how you can deal with, the negative experiences, and that you don't have to live the victim story that you have
Yeah.
in your life again and again. You can reframe it. You can tell a different story of your life. So if you guys are interested in wanting to be coached by the happiness coach herself, Kathi Rañeses, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram mostly. I think I'm also on TikTok, but not so much. You can find me at coachinghappiness.ph. I also have a website with the same title, coachinghappiness.ph. You can shoot me an email there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kathi, for joining me this evening for Heard on Thursdays. And may we all try and live happier, fuller lives, and where we are more ourselves and, unapologetically, and just set boundaries just to, make better decisions and say no in
Yes.
2023. Let's learn that, right?
No is a complete sentence, guys. So,
Yes,
yeah. Thank you,
absolutely.
Nikki, for having me.
Thank you so much for all the monsters who have tuned in. I hope you've learned a thing or two. For now, though, we are going to go back to more music. For now, up next, we are going to be playing some Matthias and some Taylor Swift before we officially sign off. Catch me again next week for, I believe, the start of our predictions episode for 2023. But for now, keep it locked right here on The Monster. Bye-bye.